Hey, welcome to Acting is Reacting with me, JSB, where it's review time again, and today's are both all about Avantasia, for I'm combining a review of their latest 10th album, Here Be Dragons, with a live gig review of their show at London's Roundhouse last week. So for anyone new to this band, they are a German heavy metal group led by Tobias Sammet, who dominates on keyboards, bass and vocals, writes everything and co-produces with lead guitarist Sasha Payet. But the USP is that they bring in a wide range of notable guest vocalists from the worlds of hard rock and heavy metal, both on the albums and on tour, kind of like a metal version of the Alan Parsons Project, you could say. Now, if you're more or indeed only interested in either the album or the gig side of things, well, it will be broken down into chapters for you to click on the bit that you want. But for obvious reasons, they kind of go hand in hand. Hence, I thought I'd look at them together today. So I will start with the album. So, as I said, Here Be Dragons is their 10th studio album, and many of the earlier ones had an almost rock opera feel and are concept albums to a greater or lesser degree. This one doesn't really do those things, but nonetheless, fans will be in familiar territory as we've got guests old and new join Tobias or Toby on a selection of richly arranged tracks full of pomp, bombast, and power. Is it power metal? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's always coupled with interesting lyrics, and Tobias, as a English is presumably his second or seventh language, he manages to come up with words that I had to look up in the dictionary. So all power to him. And also, of course, catchy and memorable choruses abound. Now, before I get to the music properly, though, let's have a quick look at the packaging, which, as always, is beautifully done. We have nice digipack. I know not everybody's a fan of the digipack, but when they're good, they work. And beautiful gatefold Roddy Matthews artwork. That's Tobias, Toby, for anyone who doesn't know him. And then the booklet is you get the artwork again. Can't have it too many times. More pictures of Toby, and you've got all the song lyrics, credits, info, bit more artwork. Good stuff. Basically, everything you could want. Uh, this is how physical product should be packaged in 2025. Just saying. Now, there is, of course, an all singing, all dancing multi-disc set with various other knobs, bells, and whistles on it. The standard one's enough for me, but if you want to go all out, you can do. If it's still available, I don't even know. Anyway, as for the music, it opens with Creepshow, which is a quick, energetic 3-minute powerhouse of a tune with just Toby on the lead vocals there, before the epic 9-minute title track sees him joined by his first guest for the album, which is none other than Queensryche's Jeff Tate, who's been on the last few albums now. Now, Toby has stated that the track wasn't meant to be that long, but it just kind of kept growing, and now he wouldn't remove a single second from it. And I'm with him on that. The vocal interplay between him and Jeff is wonderful, and Sasha gets to add some tasty guitar solos along the way as well. Basically, it's a stunner. So after opening with the quickie and the epic, the rest of the tracks fall largely in the 4 to 5.5 minute range. And while all of them are strong individually, if I have a criticism of the album, and it's only a mild one if I do, it's that there isn't a huge amount of variation in terms of tempo and style across the 50 minutes, but that is actually a relatively short running time for an Avantasia album, and it doesn't outstay its welcome as a result. And as I say, all of the songs are strong. Now, one song in particular that does stand out for being different is Bring On the Night, which comes at about the midway point and sees things stripped back, initially at least, with a plaintive opening vocal from Magnum's Bob Catley on a track that Toby consciously wrote as a tribute to Magnum and the late Tony Clarkin. And he's nailed it, absolutely. Like many a Magnum track, it builds and takes you to places that, from the opening, are unexpected, but also so right. And Toby has said Bob had tears in his eyes when he was recording it, and Toby was hiding his own behind his big goggles. It's definitely an emotional one for Magnum fans, such as me, if you couldn't tell. Now, me not really being a metal guy and sat here in this Magnum t-shirt, it's probably a bit of a giveaway that Bob's involvement is what drew me to Avantasia in the first place. So I'm aware of my biases and I don't shy away from that, but more of those will follow in the second part of this review, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, there are plenty of other standouts here. The Witch, with Camelot's Tommy Karavik making his Avantasia debut, might have the catchiest chorus on the entire album, which is no mean feat. And other mainstays on the guest list, such as Michael Kiske, I don't know, and Ronnie Atkins, can say that one. They sound as good as ever on their respective tracks. Morning Blood comes later in the form of first Adrian Cowan, bringing the feminine touch and in great style too. That's to the track Avalon, and then Heat's Kenny Lacrimo. And again, I might be saying that wrong. I don't know. He's on Against the Wind and sounds fantastic. More on both of them a bit later as well. Uh, then it all ends with Everybody's Here Until the End, which is another strong, memorable track and one with more of a power ballad feel and tempo, though I would still say it is more power than ballad, and definitely a fitting conclusion to a pretty wonderful album. Overall, then, a typically strong effort and one fans will be very happy with. It may have crept up a bit higher with just a little bit more variation between some of the tracks, but it's still easily worthy of 4 stars from me. Now, if you've not given Avantasia a listen before and are a fan of metal in general, especially the lighter, funner side of metal, or indeed any of the guest vocalists involved, well worth investigating. And yeah, uh, let me know what you think if you've heard it now or if you come to it later. The big question, I suppose, now is how does all of that translate to the live stage? Well, now the Roundhouse is a legendary venue, but in recent years, its legend seems to be becoming one of how difficult it is to get a crowd to its doors in time for a show. I may well have a short rant about that elsewhere, but suffice to say, the band was scheduled to be on stage for 8, but delayed starting by 10 minutes to ensure those still queuing could actually get in for it. Now, yeah, as I say, rants elsewhere about that side of things. Now, as per the album, Creepshow worked extremely effectively as a setlist opener and set the tone for the rest of the night. Next up, Adrian Cowan, who was one of 3 backing singers on stage virtually all night. She came down centre stage to join Toby memorably for Reach Out for the Light, taking us right back to the debut album way back from 2001 there, before Tommy Karavik made his first appearance of quite a few along the night with The Witch from the new album. But again, every bit as good live as on the record. So the first half or so of the show basically continued this pattern of alternating between songs from the new album and older classic tracks. A strategy that doesn't always pay off, but it did here because the old and the new sat alongside each other very nicely indeed, and the regular turnover of guest vocalists keeps everything fresh and interesting. Now, one of those singers was, of course, Mr. Big's Eric Martin, an Avantasia live mainstay, though he is actually on relatively few of the studio tracks, and he isn't on the new album. Um, now, I didn't catch him on the last Mr. Big tour, but I gather through illness and other issues, he probably for the first time in his life had some problems with his vocals on that track. Not so on this occasion, and he still only looks about 12, which is highly disconcerting. Toby is the man who it all centers around. A lesser talent could easily be overwhelmed by all the additional elements contained here, but Toby is pure showman, owning the stage with a mid-song or introducing the next one. Now, he may have been a bit restricted by time. He kept saying he wasn't allowed to talk too much, but it was still full of great banter with the audience, especially when he was instructing us as to how we should behave or react to a band announcing tracks from the new album. Um, I won't spoil it for you if you're going to see it later. And making time to give love to the vocalists and the other band members along the way. Now, unlike on the albums, in a live setting, he usually restricts himself to vocals only, but along with Sasha Payev, he's got a crack band covering all the musical elements. He gives himself a few songs off later in the set, but this is a man putting in the hard yards night in and night out and delivering every single time. Now, I haven't compared what we got with other set lists from the tour. I know there's been some variations. One thing we were treated to that sadly others on this tour won't get was Mr. Bob Catley. Yeah, he was due to be on the entire tour, but he's been recovering from surgery and not able to travel out of the UK. And I was wondering on that basis if they were going to have to wheel him on for him to even do the London show, but no, he bounded on stage and looked and sounded as vibrant as ever. Uh, and that, of course, was for his, or for one of his Avantasia legendary tracks, The Story Ain't Over. Toby said on stage that without Magnum, he wouldn't have pursued a career in music, which is almost certainly an exaggeration, but the reverence with which he holds Sir Bob was obvious, and the level of love in the room was truly immense and made this little fanboy very proud and happy to be a Magnum fan. Now, Bob, of course, returned later for Shelter from the Rain, one of 5 tracks from the Scarecrow album, given an airing, by the way. And on that track, he may have delivered best vocal performance I've ever heard from him in a live setting, which is saying something. I won't keep you all day with a blow-by-blow retelling of the entire night, but I do have to give props to all the singers. But aside from Bob, Heat's Kenny the Cremo was a revelation because I've never really followed Heat at all. And I also have to give mention to Herbie Langens as well. He's the male backing singer, but he also took shared lead on several tracks originally recorded by more famous singers and more than did them justice. And then, of course, the finale with everyone on stage together was pure Broadway musical, I guess you could say, but also well earned and a great way to end the night. At 2 3/4 hours, the show even possibly being a bit curtailed by that venue delay, uh, and of course, no budging on the 11 p.m. curfew. But whatever way you cut it, with all that music, all those guests, and an all-in ticket price, including fees, of under 50 quid, well, that to my mind is exceptional value for money in this day and age. So I'd rate the show a 9 out of 10 in any case, but Bob's presence and my biases bring it up to a highly impressive 9.5. To be honest, singers will come and go from a band like this, but if you have a chance to catch any version of this group anywhere, then for goodness sake, go do it. Okay, well, that is my 2-for-1 Avantasia review. Thank you for joining me for that, and I'll have more live and album reviews from 2025 coming up. Meanwhile, I have a bunch of earlier 2025 albums reviewed on one side of my head or other, or go the other way if you'd like to find out how Bob fared on the recent Magnum gig in London. In any case, thanks for watching today, and I'll just say bye for now, but I hope not for long.
Acting is reacting. This does not mean acting again.